You're sitting in the driver's seat of a 2026 mid-size SUV. It smells incredible. That new car scent is actually just a mix of adhesives and plastic off-gassing, but in this moment it smells like success. The digital dashboard is larger than your first laptop, and the salesperson is leaning against the doorframe, smiling because they know you've already fallen in love. They lean in and whisper the number. It's $872 a month. You do some quick mental gymnastics. You tell yourself that if you stop ordering takeout and maybe cancel that one streaming service you never watch, you can swing it. But deep down, in that pit of your stomach, you know you're lying to yourself. You're about to sign away a decade of wealth building for a hunk of metal that's going to lose 20% of its value the second you drive it over that curb? My name is Sam, and I spend too much time thinking about where your money actually goes. If you want to stop being paycheck to paycheck wealthy and actually start building a net worth, hit that subscribe button. We talk about the stuff your bank hopes you never figure out. Here is the cold, hard reality of 2026. The affordable new car is officially dead. It's gone. It's been replaced by rolling computers that cost as much as a down payment on a house did 10 years ago. We've reached a point where a standard pickup truck or a family crossover is no longer a tool for transportation. It's a luxury item disguised as a necessity. The average new car price has climbed so high that the math literally doesn't work for the majority of the population anymore. We're living in a world where people are taking out 7-year loans on assets that won't even last 15 years. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. You can keep pouring your salary into it, but you're never going to see that bucket get full. Let's look at the actual numbers, because math doesn't have feelings and it doesn't care about your new car itch. In 2026, the average new car price is hovering around $52,000. Look, if you want to follow the old school 20/4/10 rule, which means 20% down, a 4-year term, and the total cost of ownership being under 10% of your gross income, the requirements are staggering. For that $52,000 car, you'd need $10,400 in cash just for the down payment. Then you'd be financing about $41,600 at a 6% interest rate, which is actually decent for 2026. Your monthly payment is about $975. To keep that under 10% of your income, you need to be making over $117,000 a year. That's for one car. If you're a dual-income household and you both want new cars, you'd better be pulling in $250,000 just to be responsible by traditional standards. But here's the thing, almost nobody actually does that. Instead, people look at the monthly payment and ignore the total cost. They take out an 84-month loan because it makes the payment fit into their budget. Let's run that second math example, because this is where the banks really get you. If you take that same $41,600 loan but stretch it out to 7 years at 8% interest, because longer loans always carry higher rates, your payment drops to $648. That sounds better, right? Wrong. Over the life of that loan, you aren't just paying for the car. You're paying nearly $13,000 in interest alone. By the time you own that car outright, in 2033, you will have paid $65,000 for a vehicle that's likely worth maybe $12,000 by then. You've effectively set $50,000 on fire over 7 years. That is the price of fitting it into the budget. The psychology behind this is honestly fascinating and a little bit depressing. We've been conditioned to think that as long as the monthly payment clears the bank account, we can afford it. But affordability isn't about cash flow, it's about opportunity cost. Every dollar you send to a car manufacturer is a dollar that isn't sitting in an index fund growing at 8%. If you took that $648 car payment and invested it for those same 7 years, you'd have over $70,000. If you left that money alone for another 20 years, it would grow to nearly $300,000. So, when you ask, can I afford this car? What you're really asking is this car worth $300,000 of my future retirement? For most people, the answer should be a hard no, but we're suckers for that new leather smell. Now, I want to give you a counterintuitive twist that might actually surprise you. In 2026, buying a 3-year-old used car might actually be a worse financial move than buying new for a very specific group of people. I know that sounds like heresy in the personal finance world. But here's why. Used car interest rates in 2026 have stayed stubbornly high, often sitting 4 or 5 points above new car rates. When you combine that with the fact that modern cars are essentially iPhones on wheels, the maintenance on a cheap used car out of warranty can be catastrophic. If you're choosing between a used car at 11% interest with potential $3,000 sensor repairs and a new car at 4% with a full warranty, the new car might actually have a lower total cost of ownership over 5 years. The buy used and drive it into the dirt mantra only works if the used car is actually cheap, and in 2026, cheap doesn't really exist anymore. So, who can actually afford a new car right now? Honestly, it's a much smaller group than the dealerships want you to believe. If you aren't putting at least 20% down in cash, you can't afford it. If you have to move the loan term past 48 months to make the payment work, you can't afford it. And if the total cost of insurance, gas, and the payment is eating up more than 15% of your take-home pay, you're just a glorified renter of a depreciating asset. Look, I'm not saying you should drive a 1998 Corolla with a taped-up window. Safety matters, reliability matters, but we've let our egos define what reliable means. A 5-year-old Honda is reliable. A brand new luxury EV with massaging seats is a toy. Here's the practical takeaway, and I want you to be really honest with yourself on this one. If you want a new car, you need to pass the cash sinking fund test. For 6 months before you buy that car, I want you to pay yourself the difference between your current car situation and the new one. If your current payment is $0 and the new one is $800, put $800 into a high-yield savings account every single month. If you can't do that comfortably without touching your emergency fund or cutting back on your 401k, then you have your answer. You can't afford the car. But if you can do it, at the end of those 6 months, you'll have nearly $5,000 for an extra down payment, and you'll know for a fact that your lifestyle can handle the hit. It's a reality check that prevents you from making a 10-year mistake based on a 15-minute test drive. Most people in 2026 are car poor, meaning they live in a beautiful house and drive a beautiful car but have a net worth of about $11 and a half-eaten granola bar. Don't be that person. The smartest thing you can do for your future self is to stop caring what your neighbors think about the badge on your grill. They're probably broke anyway. Buy the car that fits your life. Was it not the car that fits your fantasy of who you want to be? Stop buying things you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't even like.